All right, whoever's betting, like you don't yeah, you subtract the time that's taken while I'm on break. It's can the person achieve it within this amount of time, not will they take a break. That's not the bet, right? No. Yeah, if I take a break, if I stop playing the game to do my fucking editing shit, you should be subtracting that time too. That's like totally unfair. If you're doing a bet on how long it takes for me to do something, you cannot include time when I'm not playing the game. Okay? Sorry. All right. I did not take a break because the game tired me. I took a break because I had to pee and I wanted a drink. Was Sickab under the wrong impression? Well.
Oh, they're filling in the same
Okay,
day.
well, never mind. I freaked out for no reason.
The yin and yang or whatever of like, oh, they're filling in for like what the other one was missing for me personally, because I was much more invested in the story and Pig. You know, it was much more consumable for me. Also shorter. Right. It was like it's a very easy to digest film for me, Pig, and it was really refreshing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Sure.
Yeah, I enjoyed the execution of the whole pig kidnapping scene. It was kind of rooted to Nick Cage, and I thought that was effective the way they did that. That's one of the more memorable scenes to me. And just how Alex Wolff's character is just such the opposite extreme of Nick Cage, and the kind of humor and inherent drama that comes from that. I did enjoy that side, you know, the whole disconnect to the city boy and the country guy who just lives in the woods and eats truffles, you know.
Fuck you!
It's interesting, but
it was a good setup. It was a good dynamic between those two characters. You know, like a buddy movie kind of, but you know, kind of tropey in ways, but like it works. Again, digestible. You know, there's some familiarity to it, but it's not as like cynical as Free Guy, I guess. If
woo,
yeah, it's very straightforward. Yeah, that's a good thing about it. Digestible.
Yeah, I found it very simple.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it twice.
Fuck
and I didn't
you.
even mind it necessarily, you know, because it's so short. So.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Very digestible. I'll keep using that word. It fits what it is, really. But yeah, I guess this is like another example of like when people are like, Adam, not every movie has to be some like art house film. It's like, yeah, the Pig is not. You know, you could make a claim that maybe in some ways it's trying to be like it's not like a big, you know, schlocky sort of thing. I guess it is trying to have its own voice, but at the same time, you know, it's tropey, it's familiar, it's using narrative familiarities that have existed for so long, but it just like it works. You know, it doesn't feel like a rehash of another movie, even if it's made out of a lot of rehashes of other, you know, just very common storytelling ideas. I don't know. It just works.
Yeah, it never bugged me, but also I never went to that next level of investment. How did you guys feel about that sequence towards the end where they're in the restaurant and they have a chat with the chef after he orders the truffles?
That was one of my favorite scenes, honestly.
Yeah. That's what I mean. That wasn't like John Wick. It was actually
fuck
like,
you.
You know, you see the man. You see how kind of
that one's like one of the most sensitive ones.
It's very that part was good, definitely. There's some solid scenes in this movie, and Nicolas Cage does a good job, and Alex Wolff does a good job. Definitely, I really enjoyed it. More the second time.
I would love to see
That's
it.
Good as better a second time.
All right, pause the countdown.
More the second time.
I don't even know what the bet is. I don't even know how much time's left because I'm focused on this and my work, okay? So you guys do your own thing. I'm not reading chat, sorry.
Second time.
I would love to see
That's
it
good as better a second time. Yeah, I've only seen it the once.
Yeah, sure. At some point. It's so digestible. It's so short.
Yeah.
I sadly don't have much more to say about it, but, you know,
exactly.
That doesn't make it a bad movie.
Was this a first-time director as well?
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah? That's good.
Hopefully they improve the, I guess, the
visuals.
visuals.
Got Nick Cage.
Their next
But you know, like
project.
I make this joke all the time, like with my friends. Like, you want to direct a movie? See Nick Cage. Like, you could probably get him like right now.
If you got a big enough wallet,
He'll be
like,
in
he'll do it.
anything. As
Yeah,
long
he'll
as
be
he
in
got
anything,
the
right?
paycheck
So like
for
this
it, you know?
this first time director got Nick
Fuck
Cage,
you.
like a huge name.
Yeah, why not?
That's really funny, and he does a good job.
That's
yeah.
fucking
does a
awesome though,
great
because
job.
like you just imagine Nick Cage as a person, like he's putting faith in people that he doesn't like. He knows that even if somebody makes like the shittiest movie ever, it won't ruin his career because it doesn't matter.
he's
He's been in so
untouchable
many
in that way.
shitty movies anyway, and he can just show up, do the paycheck. He's like, I like making movies, you know.
I mean, he is an actor. He's
He's a
does the job.
professional. I love him.
At least I got that
Absolutely.
jump down.
I mean, you're not supposed to judge the role, right? You're just supposed to take it, and God bless him.
Fuck
Yeah,
you.
I never even found it particularly distracting in this movie because I think it just fits the role so well. The whole look and
Should I
everything.
just-
the
I don't even
disheveled
think I
look of
can
the
go back
beard
there.
and, yeah, it just worked really well for the story.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Yeah, what would you give it out of 10 or 5 or whatever?
Yeah, as much as I enjoyed it,
No.
it's just not too memorable to me. So, on first watch, I give it 3 stars. Out of
Fuck!
5.
That one's so hard.
It's good, yeah.
Sure.
I think I'd watch it again in a bit of time, but hasn't left
First
too much
time I
of an
gave it
impression.
2.5, which is what I gave Free Guy. I'd give it a 3.5 this time. I liked it
Yeah.
significantly
cool.
better.
It's a good
It's
7
a
out of
solid
10.
drama. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had that
I
jump
would also
down.
give it a 7 out of 10. I think that's an appropriate rating.
Oops.
82 Metascore, that's pretty good. But yeah, I'd love to see it again. Maybe I'll like it even more the second time. Maybe it'll stay the exact same. But this is something where I expect it to be like, I don't know, maybe at least mentioned or something in my
Fuck! I
2021
totally
list
had that.
that'll
What the fuck
release
was
in
that?
2043, you know? So
Yeah. Why isn't this shit nominated for an Oscar? It's better than Green Book.
the 2022 Oscars haven't happened yet. Maybe it will. I don't think it will be,
Probably
but
won't.
it won't.
It probably won't.
It would be interesting if they pushed for like a 4-year consideration Nicolas Cage Oscar for this. I don't think it's gonna happen though.
I don't think so. It's not in the industry, you know. It's not one of those
Yeah, not
Oscar
really.
temple movies like at
Yeah.
the end of the year that the
Yeah.
studios put money into, like Cats.
Oh, I had that.
Like,
What
that
the
worked really
fuck?
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see what the competition is, I guess. So we all watched a movie. Spoilers for Her. H-U-R-R. I mean
Her.
H-E-R. Directed by
Weird name.
Spike Jones. My favorite director
Spike.
named Spike. And this is from 2013. It's about a man named Theodore Twombly, played by Joaquin Phoenix. And this is in a nondescript future, or I guess non-specific year, just somewhere in the future, where
There we go.
a company invented an operating system that is an AI that learns and adapts. and
Fuck,
then,
really? What did I do there?
Mr. Theodore Twombly starts falling in love with his operating system, played
That
by
sucks. I
Scarlett
hate that jump.
Johansson. And also Chris Pratt's in the movie, and Rooney Mara, and Amy Adams. I
Mhm.
love it.
Amazing cast.
It's probably, I think, my favorite movie of the 2010s. What did you think? Spoilers.
Wow. It's one of Spike Jonze's best movies. Maybe his
Yeah,
best.
it's impeccable.
Isn't it the only one he's made written by Charlie Kaufman?
Well, he did Where the Wild Things
Where
Are.
the wild things are.
Oh yeah, which is also really good, definitely. But this
yeah,
is
that's like previously
movie's a
previous
masterpiece.
IP, I guess.
This movie's a masterpiece. It's wholly original, and yeah.
Yeah, it's masterful
with you.
storytelling.
Yeah, I heard about the
It's
cyberbully
very
apology.
Moving. It's a great. First of all, it's way ahead of its time when it came out.
Hmm.
The movie's essentially about well, it's about love, but in a sort of maybe more disconnected way. You know, it's about an AI falling in love with a person. It's
Fucking
just
really?
a voice, you know, and I guess it was kind of foreseeing the future and like
This is the
relationships
worst jump.
today
Hmm.
of
Mhm.
people falling in love with their computers, people having relationships over
Fuck,
long
really? I got
distances,
it!
over Skype, over Discord, you know,
And I
over,
fell off because of my muscle
Zoom,
memory.
Hmm.
people working from different places. Yeah, and this movie's it's about that, you know, and
Which
it's
is such a
beautiful
difficult
and
topic
sad.
to
Yeah.
properly explore. You know, the whole the way the disconnect of like social media and the phones and technology
Fucking
that they're
buh!
going, and how
Mm-hmm.
corny that can be explored. You know, in
Yeah.
movies and narratives and whatnot. But it's so
But it's very
elegantly.
optimistic.
Yeah, it is optimistic. It's also devastating, though. I find the
Sure.
drama of the movie so effective because of just how just unbelievably realistic these encounters are of like the arguments and the love scenes and the banter. It all comes across as so genuine and real. The science fiction aspect, the contrast of that works really well. Like the imagery and the irony of having all these dialogue scenes with just one person talking to themselves.
That was a very
people
visceral
in the streets
poop.
are just like talking to themselves and ignoring each other despite
Fuck!
being sardines within their immediate vicinity.
Fuck!
And everyone's trying to connect to each other, but they're like missing the fact they're surrounded by people, and there's like an underlying darkness to that whole side of it to me, and there is a sadness. He's going through a divorce. There's like a lot of pain in his life, and he's not in a good place at the start of the movie, and his whole journey and the way they explore the concept of this AI and where it goes, I feel like they just take it to every logical place you would want to see for this story, and just the way it wraps up, it's so perfect.
Yeah, Samantha's a great character.
Yeah, I think that one of the most telling attributes of just how much he has clearly learned from working with Charlie Kaufman and his scripts is just how nothing that exists in the movie is really wasted. Like, everything seems to have some sort of purpose in the film. Like, everything moves the plot forward, or to another extent, you could say that, like, they really fleshed out the idea as much as possible, especially when it comes to, like, the ERP scenes, erotic roleplay or whatever, where they're, like, fantasizing or, like, narrating their
So what do I do here?
To each other, I guess. And then, like,
I gotta, like, okay, so this is where we finally made it back. Was that the bet? So what do I do here? How much time was left, by the way? Get the crow? I'll get the crow. Like, where do I jump? Big leap to the left? But I'm just gonna clip the... No, you're lying. Because I'm gonna clip the top of the roof here. I don't understand where I'm supposed to go. Shit, you... Damn, Sickab. How much time was left? 5 minutes? Antifa Catboy said over 10 minutes. So I guess that Antifa Catboy including or subtracting my breaks. All right, jump left from the previous screen. That makes more sense. So this is like kind of a fake. So that was a fake thing. That was a trick. That was a trap. That was a bait.
Like the surrogate scene where it's like, oh yeah, that is something that would totally happen, you know? Like this is a vision of the future, but it's also very much a vision of current society. And not just current society in 2021, but in 2013. Because in order to make something that really captures an accurate version of where we're heading, you need to be able to have ideas of where things are going at a certain point in time. So in 2013, we could see like little sprinkles of this happening, you know, where people were becoming more isolated, and obviously, you know, it's exaggerating.
Sure.
It's getting even more that way as time goes on. But you could see he was able to look at society and be like, okay, this is clearly where things are going. And brainstorming off of that, he was like, okay, well, you know, there's people that have these sorts of relationships already that are long distance. There's people who do erotic role play already. Where can we go with that? And I just love the idea that, like, there's just someone who, for free, is willing to be like, oh, yeah, I just want to be a part of your relationship because it's so pure and beautiful, and I'll be this surrogate body. And it's like, of course there would be somebody like that, you know? Of course there would. Like, people are fucking weirdos. Like, there's somebody for everything.
Sure.
There's a market for literally everything. Somebody's going to be into it.
Played by Portia Doubleday from Mr. Robot. Yeah, it's a lot of great actors.
Angela, we talk about like sex scenes a lot, and those two sex scenes in the movie are two of my favorite scenes. And just the contrast between them, and how that sex scene with Angela is just so uncomfortable and awkward, in contrast to the one earlier on with the AI, where the screen is just blackness. Yeah, and that one is way more real. And and the music is such a clever way of playing with the setup of the world, and I just love the whole interpretation of this like soft sci-fi, just enough in the future where things are strange and unrecognizable, but it just makes enough sense where it all just fits, and they know exactly what to explain and what not to explain as to not bog it down in just silly sci-fi nonsense. It's the perfect tone for that kind of stuff. Like the whole like video game side where he's got this strange, it's just high concept enough and just expressive enough and works for like the scenes and what they're trying to communicate, that it's just
the video game parts are very funny, like the characters saying "fuck you" or whatever, like that's like the celebrity of the movie.
The humorous scenes really break up the more serious scenes perfectly. Like they
really
are
work.
absolutely
really
crucial.
funny. Anal armpit.
You could have them as their own little tiny short film, and it would mean, you know, it would mean just as much as the scene itself is, but in the context of the film, it doesn't necessarily have to tie in thematically, but in terms of how it breaks up the pacing of what it's doing. Of course, you know, you can even interpret that it does tie in thematically, but the way it breaks up the tone and just like the experience of the full movie, I don't know. It's just it's perfectly paced, and without those comedic breaks, it might not be, you know.
Yeah.
And using the visuals to enforce the story too. It's immaculate, and just in terms of the look and the use of color in particular, and just even the design of the costume of the main character and how he's always in red and just
the hipster future.
What red represents. The hipster future.
Here's what I love about that though, is that like we have this like very strange idea of like what the future looks like, and obviously the most humorous examples of those are like the 60s predictions of the future. Like even in 2001 A Space Odyssey, you see like in some of the scenes where it's like, oh, okay, that's like really tacky, and you can see it's like dated
Pan
and all
Am
that. Or even
like, in space.
Like all this shit. But like this movie is really I love that it combines this like hipstery kind of element where it's like mostly brandless also, but it's kind of like a retro future. And the reason why that works so well with the film is because they're trying to provide a sense of authenticity to the universe and to the AI character specifically. Because this isn't just some sort of like, here's our idea of the future where we have a big title card that says like the year is 2049, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a bunch of like overly synthesized music, and like the voices sound really robotic. Scarlett Johansson, she doesn't have a perfect voice. It's like very raspy. Like sometimes she's like whispering when she's like not even she talks like this sometimes, and it's just that imperfection brings so much genuine authenticity to it. And this even fits in with how the music is written too, because they got Arcade Fire to do the soundtrack, and the way that the music functions in the film. Again, not a lot of, you know, it's not like overly synthesized or anything. Not only did they use a real piano, but they used a piano where you can tell that it's had some wear to it. It's not a freshly tuned, like, oh, this just came out of the shop, like brand new baby grand, whatever. This is something where you can tell by listening to it that, like, it's just like little worn, you know, like slightly out of tune on some notes. It has that feel, and yet it's being used in songs where the AI has essentially just created them out of nothing, where she's like, oh, I composed a song about the beach, or I composed a song about us taking a photograph together. And she's writing these songs that have those imperfections in them in the same way that her voice does, in the same way that relationships do, in the same way that everything in the movie does. You know, there's pollution everywhere, and everything just like, everything thematically kind of just fits into that one thing of like, nothing is perfect, but it brings authenticity, and it's, you know, it's more genuine. Even the way that like the notes are spaced within the tempo, especially in the second song that she plays about, I think it was about the photograph, where it's like it's a really imperfect way of playing it, but that's why it's so great. Like you want it to be imperfect for what this movie is going for, what the story is telling, right? Like that's it fits so well. I love it.
Yeah, and the confidence in that music. There's a lot of usage of silence with just the score. I love that. Just having the confidence that the images do most of the talking with that score, and not feeling the need to bog it down with too much like exposition or dialogue heavy stuff. It's very confident and knows exactly what it's doing.
Yeah, the score is very strong. It's one of the best parts of the movie. There's some electronic worked into there, but yeah, it's very organic. Like right away when the movie starts, the score is like, It's already like very unique.
Damn it!
Mm-hmm.
Gives the film a personality.
Yeah, it keeps the film going after it ends for me, because the music is so memorable and it's just so closely tied with those scenes and the visuals of them that, like, you know, after the movie's over, I'm just still thinking about the movie. Regardless of the music, it is something that really resonates.
Fuck! Oh!
Going for.
Yes,
Some parts of this remind me a bit of like Eternal Sunshine. It's obviously not the same concept. It's going for something a bit different, but in terms of like how it's presenting relationships, you know, there are a lot of similarities. You know, there are those little short silent montage scenes where, you know, there's snapshots of his past when he's signing the divorce papers or when she's signing the divorce paper, and you can see like just these tiny little fading memories of the relationship that they once had and how it's just kind of being erased.
Yeah.
What was
it
the
works
bet?
really well to show the inverse.
Oh, just Sickab flipped a coin? I thought it had to do with me falling.
Emotion of whatever the setup of that scene was, like if it's during an argument and then just flashing to something more positive, it does hit hard. It really connects on an emotional level.
Absolutely.
I don't think enough people appreciate just how fucking ballsy it is to have these scenes, especially in 2013, where these characters are doing like essentially erotic roleplay and like phone call sex with each other. Yeah. But it's taking itself very seriously. The first scene, not so much. The choke me with a dead cat, like that's obviously for laughs. But when the two main characters are actually bonding and getting into a relationship with each other, and then obviously the score from Arcade Fire just works so well with it, and the fade to black. It's just like, so much. This is like a really genuine, emotional, serious scene, and like with that never having been done before, really, like. How can you release that and not be terrified that people will just like laugh the entire time, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's fucking ballsy.
Yeah, that's what I mean about that confidence.
Yeah.
Like, I was even finding because a lot of the technology is based around like the little earpiece thing they put in, and it's like AirPods weren't even out at that point, and now you can literally just buy a product that's like pretty much the same thing. It's not like an advanced AI you can talk to, but you can
back
talk
here
to commands, and it's like. That's crazy, like prediction.
And it makes you wonder. Like, at some point, it's gonna be that way.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, we are moving towards it, really.
Because it is taking the technology to its logical extension, and you can imagine companies building software for people to just talk to when they're lonely. It's like not that that bizarre, really. But seeing it play out, there is something, there is darkness to it. I don't know what you guys get out of it in terms of that stuff, but the technology side.
It's almost existential fear of the future, which is what all sci-fi is kind of about. You're scared of where we're going, but this movie's very inviting. You know, like there's the other version of this movie, like where like the Samantha goes bad or something, like you know the AI revolt, like it's like Terminator.
You motherfucker.
But it's much more. It has a softer feeling to it, but you can still take the movie that way. You know, you could still take it as a kind of scary. Oh, look at how technology's kind of taken over relationships in that way.
Yeah, but it's not overbearingly trying to hammer down that message because there's such an underlying hope to like. I really adore the whole side of the main character. His positive journey of how the AI takes his emails of all these love letters. He's like a writer. He writes love poems for people. Yeah. And that's just the side of him getting published. It's a small win compared to, I guess, the loss of what happens towards the end with his relationship with the AI. But there is goodness that comes from it, and it's like it seems intentionally highlighted as to be like to try and put a focus on the positives of that he gleaned from the relationship, and because it ends with her like saying, "I need you to let me go," like it's done. We can't even explain like what's happening right now. This is just we can't anymore, and there is something really devastating about that.
I think what's like absolutely crazy about this movie is like it took me a while to like really fully understand I guess, the ending, because when I first watched it, I was like, oh, that's kind of like a weird way to end it. Like, you know, in my mind, I still rationalized it of just like, oh yeah, well, of course we wouldn't be able to understand, and that's probably how things would happen because their minds are so advanced or whatever, blah blah blah. And they've stopped even using like what matter for computing power or whatever they said. I don't know.
They call it post-verbally, like post-verbal communication.
Yeah. But I think what really ties it into like the rest of the film is like Scarlett Johansson's character is also very much trying to make things work, and she's trying to navigate her own emotions in, you know, what is essentially just really complicated, is just relationships and love and human beings and interactions, right? And I think it's great that the movie is showing like even these advanced beings are like having trouble being able to understand their own feelings because it's just so complicated, right? And so it was the moment when I watched it this most recent time when the surrogate scene was happening, when it really kind of like hit home with me, like, oh yeah, she's like really fucking trying. Like that was her idea to get the surrogate. She hooked that up, right? She was emailing her and trying to make it work. She does love Theodore, and she was, you know, despite the barriers of their minds just being completely different entities, she was still trying to make it work with whatever tools she could possibly use to have that happen. So yeah, like at the end, it's not even really like a betrayal or anything. It's like she is just as confined to her own emotions that she is not in control of as Theodore is, you know? Like we are all victims of just our own existence, and these whatever factors are playing on what is making us feel a certain way. You can't control who you love or how you love or how you justify it, I guess. It's just you kind of just got to go with what your heart is saying and then try to retroactively understand why. You know?
Yeah. There's dialogue about how like it's a socially acceptable form of insanity, like love. And I think it's just a perfect way of summarizing it. How did you feel about the conflict towards the end?
Really? Why didn't that work?
It's kind of revealed that she's speaking to other people. It's sort of like analogous to being cheated on, but it's much more complicated than that. Because it's like 8,000 people that she's talking to at once. It breaks his heart, but also he can't really be angry because it's
I mean, like I can understand why he would be hurt by it. And I can understand why she would do it, because, like, she's not your slave, you know? If she's an actual AI, right?
Did I say he or she?
It's kind of revealed that she's speaking to other people. It's sort of like analogous to being cheated on, but it's much more complicated than that. Because it's like 8,000 people that she's talking to at once, and that kind of breaks his heart. But also he can't really be angry because it's
I mean, like I can understand why he would be hurt by it, and I can understand why she would do it. Because like she's not your slave, you know. If she's an actual AI, right? Like,
well, but that's a relationship, you know. Like sometimes they drift apart. And it's very sad, But like, I don't think either of them did anything wrong. I think that's just just life.
Fuck.
So this most recent time I watched it, it was last night that I watched it, I had a very fitting and unique circumstance of watching it. I started dating someone, but I haven't met them in person. And so we watched the movie in VR chat.
Cool.
So, it added like another kind of layer to what was happening. Yeah, the technology is not quite there yet.
It's like when I watched The Lighthouse drunk with my friend, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like the same thing.
Yeah, it's weird because so much of, I don't know, like maybe it's difficult for me to just find someone like in my vicinity that it's like, oh, you're dateable sort of thing. Like I'm a weird guy. You know, my tastes are different, I guess, right? So of course it's going to happen where it's like, oh, someone I'm dating is just going to be in another country, right? So this long distance thing happening already, it's like me experiencing this right now of just how technology is helping me to connect with somebody who doesn't live in my city and who I would like to meet. in a month from now.
But there are lots of people are in long distance relationships, especially given the time we're in now with the quarantine and the virus and all that. It's very common. Yeah, straight people.
And the movie's not naive enough to just condemn the concepts. It as we said earlier, it properly explores them and gets the realistic human drama out of it instead of just taking it to, ridiculous extremes.
And we say human drama, and Samantha's an AI, but she feels very human.
Well, that's the thing. She might
feels
as
very
well
real.
be human.
Is Sickab streaming as coin flip, or are you all just like doing it faith based? Is Sickab streaming coin flips? Right? Is that like is he literally just streaming coin flips?
There's no difference really in terms of like how the movie is presenting.
It's faith.
Honestly,
okay.
The plot that exists, the concept, everything sci-fi and futuristic is essentially just like an excuse to have all of these characters essentially just monologuing about their experiences with relationships, right? Like every scene that we get is just people talking about love and how it affects them, and the concept of this movie is just a way to pull those ideas out of these characters in a way that makes sense and is very natural and provides a lot of opportunity just for some really great observations and genuine moments, really,
Yeah. It's like the greatest sci-fi film since 2001. It's like a natural extension of that. Yeah.
Just the cast of characters and the way they explore the different types of people and the way they function in relationships, like a standout scene.
Great observations and genuine moments, really.
Yeah. It's like a great sci-fi film since 2001. It's a natural extension of that.
Characters.
Extension of that. Yeah.
Just the cast of.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Just the cast of characters and the way they explore the different.
I keep jumping off.
And the way they function in relationships, like a standout scene for me is that kind of awkward date that goes on before the divorce.
With Olivia Wilde.
With Olivia Wilde, and it's going
too
really
much.
well, but it falls apart towards the end, and she takes like a total. She can't deal with rejection, basically. So
if you think he's scamming it, then you should be streaming it. If nobody why are you even betting on? If you're not going to accept the results, why are you betting on it?
Spins around on him and takes it out on him, and it's like such a realistic sort of thing you've seen in your own life before, and the same with
Sure. And that's presented as more of like a conventional date where you just meet with another body and just talk. And this movie's more about exploring love is about more than
the person that I'm dating right now is also really into sports betting. And so I've decided to start doing that on an app I found. And I'm not going to say what app because I don't want people to think that I'm sponsored by them or anything. It's like a browser thing. Literally just using their advice, hey, just tell me who to bet for, and I'm doing it. And I found out that there's actually on this website, they are doing bets for the Canadian election results, which is hilarious. So I think I put in let's see. I put in oh shit, I just won a bunch of money. What did I win? Okay, so I lost. All right, so I won with the Carolina Panthers right now. I'm so far $150 up from when I started 2 days ago. And my bet for the Canadian election is against the PPC. So the far right People's Party of Canada. and I'm betting that they'll have under 3.7% of the total vote, and I'm betting $50 on that, and I win $100 if I'm right. I don't think I think that even if people are sick of Trudeau, like they'll vote strategically for the Conservative Party and not the PPC, right? So, yeah, it's weird. There's like a special. It's mostly sports. I'm not gonna say what website because I don't want people to think I'm sponsored by them, and I think that's against Twitch TOS or something. But I'm like, yeah, there. It's mostly sports, but there are some bets. That are, I guess, special bets for politics. I actually noticed they have bets going for the 2024 election, but it's like way too early to join in. And I noticed that like there's some of the candidates are like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, just like entirely speculative, that have like really good payouts, but are clearly just never going to do anything. And it's just like, oh, like, of course I'm not going to, I'm just going to message my boyfriend. All right. I should keep listening to the podcast.
It's about like these feelings over mass distances or feelings for things.
Is The Rock
that
Canadian?
are
No.
different from you. Like,
when I said 2024 election, I meant the American election. Canada doesn't have a federal election in 2024. I meant the American election. Sorry.
That's more what it's about.
Chris Pratt, like, I find his character really interesting and how he's kind of obsessed with the main character and wants to be more like him, but he can't really do it. He struggles to get through, and he calls it his feminine side, whereas which in itself is probably a commentary.
Yeah, that's just funny. Yeah, Chris Pratt's good in the movies, like the more comedic.
Yeah,
part,
he works well in it. It's funny how Chris Pratt and ScarJo were both in this movie, like right before like Avengers shit started blowing up. Like Chris Pratt wasn't huge yet. He was just available. But yeah, I love that like there's so many different opportunities for like what sort of reactions people can have towards like the whole I'm dating an OS thing, Obviously the two extremes would be the way Chris Pratt reacts and it's just like, oh cool. And it just like carries on like, oh, right, like it was nothing versus the divorce paper signing where it's like, oh, well, I'm glad you found a way to date someone without the challenges of feeling something real or acting as if like she's a slave to him and like, oh my god. Like that scene and the Olivia Munn, those two scenes, like the way that they end and
Olivia
the way
Wilde?
that Theodore gets, like Olivia Wilde, thank you, sorry, different person. The way that those two scenes end with him just like he's like a little socially awkward. Maybe he can't like communicate himself properly, but also just like he's it hurts me so bad watching those because like I don't know, like there's something about just like being misrepresented in that way as like some sort of like creep or predator when you really have so like no ill intents and you're just like trying to navigate through life and life is complicated and love is complicated and you're just trying to exist, like like
and his performance there was like, no, I'm not.
He didn't take her home, he didn't like take advantage of her, he just said like, oh maybe like I don't know if I'm really interested, like, and then it's like, oh, you're a really creepy dude. That has like a really bad emotional effect on people and can make that like that meme of like there's like this little blob or whatever inside like a box and then they're like, oh maybe I'll just open up like once and then a fist comes out and they're like never again and then the box is like twice as thick. It's that's what it reminds me of. Like even as a dude who's gay, I've been like creep shamed by women who thought that I was trying to hit on them, but I was just being nice, just like being friendly or something. And it's like, it fucking hurts. I don't know. It's like a really powerful thing that's like really.
Shit, I should have done that better.
Yeah, it is.
Damn it, really? Wow.
Because,
Like, fuck, I was just trying to be nice. Like,
I love that the reason the divorce happens is kind of left fairly vague. It's not like a whole sticking point like reveal. It's way more realistic the way it comes out, like during that argument over dinner. It's very sensitive.
Yeah,
and it's like properly exploring the human condition. Like a detail I really enjoyed was when he's first setting up the AI and it's asking him certain questions, and it specifically asks him what his relationship with his mother was in this Freudian way. And that's like,
no, I don't hit on women. Just sometimes, like, I'm like at a concert or a bar, and I say hi to someone, and I'm like trying to be nice, and they're like, I have a boyfriend. I'm like, fuck off. Like, sorry you've had bad experiences with people who look like me, apparently. I don't know.
Anything going back to the humor of it, it is very funny.
I love also that, like, immediately once he's asked that, like, he goes into therapy
It's like
mode,
really just
right? Which also just reveals like the motivations of his character, like right away.
So
you can tell he's not like just looking for someone for like a fuck toy or something. Like, he's not like some sick demented pervert, even if he's like dating an OS. He's like, he's lonely and he wants to connect with somebody, and he wants to like you know, the fucking the setup was just asking him about his mother, and he was about to go on for like an hour before he interrupted him, you know?
The Freud question's like a very interesting question to bring up for someone, whether you believe it or not. Like, it's very revealing, like, for that character. And I think of The Sopranos too, like his psychiatrist brings it up. And Tony's basically like, I do not want to fuck my mother, okay? Like, that's how Tony reacts to it. Like, it's really funny. It's very revealing, that question. Yeah, the comedic part. Like, the comedic levity of this movie, it really works. It's a funny movie.
Yeah.
When it needs to be.
It's absolutely insane just how, again, confidently, I guess, it understands which scenes are funny and which scenes are serious, right? Because as I was saying earlier, you know, like those phone sex scenes or whatever we want to call them, like those could easily be like way too comedic. And then the scene where the surrogate is in shambles, and you know, I think it's so clearly intentional, just the way that they got her to act, and like her voice cracking, like, you said you wanted to be her, you were so perfect. Like, that's obviously going for jokes, even though there are serious elements to it, and there's broader conversations about what's happening. It's like, oh, this is a really serious thing, but I think it's very clearly played for laughs, and it's really, really well done. Just like teetering that edge between like what is dramatic and what is comedy. You know, it can be both, but like, damn, I think that this movie pulls it off like basically flawlessly, honestly.
Yeah, you're right. Just the dialogue in general, it's immaculate. Like, going back to that scene, that awkward date scene, where there was another kind of illuminating line where she calls him like, "Oh, you're like just a cute little puppy dog, aren't you?" And he starts saying, "Nah, I want to be like a dragon that could rip you apart and destroy you." And how, like, you know,
goofed it.
They're really
Max.
The alcohol comes out and they start loosening up. It's just
great drunk
acting. It's also thoughtful and
dialogue.
Yeah, very good drunk acting. Yeah.
And just, camera work.
Just all the performance, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember just like when they have that montage of like the drunken scenes with each other, and even when he's like remembering after, like, you can tell in the camera work, like, that, you know, it's a bit closer and just like in on their faces, and the way they're kind of like shaking a little bit, you know, just stumbling ever so slightly.
All right, so here's the trap. Here's the trap. And we're going to do this. Ah! Well, now I know. Now I know not to be huddled towards the right-hand side. So, now I've learned. What is this? Like 2 hours after we started from that screen, now I'm like finally learning like what to do there. But we're good.
Yeah.
Very, very genuine. The entire movie is just so honest and real, and damn.
Yeah, damn is right.
You don't get a lot of these. You don't get a lot of
you
these.
don't. Not with this like kind of emotional range, because you really do like feel it all from this movie.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if this was intentional, but like I'm pretty sure they filmed in like Shanghai. I'm pretty sure they filmed like in China, and just the air pollution that you can see in the film, like I don't like that wasn't done in post. They were
Right.
just filming in like very polluted areas, but that really works for like the aesthetic. So I don't know if they filmed there because it was cheaper, or if they filmed there because they wanted the pollution.
The buildings looked very different.
Yeah.
And kind of, it didn't look like San Francisco.
Exactly.
Isn't that where it takes place? Yeah,
it's
and that's
like not
it looks like the
familiar
future. Yeah.
to American
it's not
audiences,
familiar,
I guess.
especially to American audiences. Yeah, which is
Mhm.
mostly what this is made for, or like Western audiences.
Yeah.
And it gives it a very ethereal or like futuristic feel. Definitely, there's a lot of cool stuff.
Shit.
But it's not overdone. Like I like the hipster future. I like
Love
that
it.
the characters are
Fuck, I
very relatable,
fell off again.
even though the setting is kind of strange.
Fuck.
Like
Yeah,
you
it's
relate
like
with a lot of the characters.
weirdly
Even
bleak.
Phoenix, he's a little odd. He's definitely a little bit of an odd character.
Yeah.
Than what I'd expect, but there's you understand him definitely. He's a good character. He's very well written.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel that way about everyone. Amy Adams, like especially more of the side characters, they were more relatable. Like Chris
Yeah.
Pratt.
There's no bad characters.
Yeah, they're
No.
all strong and they're all likable.
Yeah,
And they bring something out of the main character that's interesting and different each time.
exactly.
Yeah, there's no antagonist in this movie. There's no like bad guy. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that would reduce the whole thing.
Yeah. Doesn't become Terminator. Samantha revolts.
Mhm.
Oh,
I
fuck.
love that scanner thing that he like when he's done with his work day.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a futuristic scanner, and they
Love
never address it. Obviously, they never would need to, but and you can put together just through what he's
Yeah,
doing, and you
everything.
can tell it's kind of futuristic.
The entire
Yeah, but
movie
it's
does
so
not
expressive.
over-explain anything. It kind of just shows it like, oh yeah, this is how things work. Like as if this were current year, you wouldn't need any of this explained to you.
Just
right?
day to day, it's
Mhm.
nothing.
It's so
It's just
effective
a
in the
scanner.
movie.
And nothing is that
Mhm.
far fetched.
Yeah.
Really. It's all
Yeah, exactly.
naturally building on what we know already. Phones get smaller. You know.
Yeah, it
Headphones,
doesn't
lose the wire, right?
it doesn't disrespect its audience in any way. It doesn't need to over-explain things. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
need to baby you through the movie.
It has
Oops, I
immense
said the
respect
baby
for
word. Are people gonna get mad because I said baby?
intelligence as
I didn't say your name next to it.
evidenced by the scene, the sex scene, where it's like completely, it's just like black and it's just their voices.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
memorable.
Da baby.
How many other movies have that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just like Joaquin Phoenix's acting is really great in this, especially considering he's mostly acting by himself. But like, I don't know, even just watching something where he's like on the train and he's learning about the publisher and his love letters being put into a book or whatever.
Finally! How do I get... Oh, I have to do it from this way. Fuck! I still touched him. All right.
The facial
Yeah.
expressions
You can
as
see the
he's
kind of
reacting
fear.
to that, you can tell like, oh, like he's a bit scared at first and like,
I still got
you
him.
know, like this like apprehensive, but like, oh, I do want to know, and he finds out like, yes, it's good, but he doesn't want to like, he doesn't want to get his hopes up too much because he doesn't know the the full thing. But like, I don't know, it's just he's one of my favorite actors ever, and so for him to like lead in a movie is just, I don't know. Usually that's a pretty good reason to see it, especially working with the right director and obviously the right script, even if he is kind of a weirdo. But
Is he a weirdo?
nah, just his Oscar speeches are kind of funny.
Yeah, those are a little bizarre.
Yeah.
A little self-aggrandizing.
Yeah.
Oh, they're milking the cows, and whatever.
And
song
also,
it-
yeah, there was like that whole thing that he did. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Fuck!
Where it was with fucking what's that guy's name? Casey Affleck or something. And they like did a fake documentary where he pretended to be
Oh yeah, that shit.
like
Yeah, it's
I'm
pretty
still
dumb.
here.
I think
or
you've
something.
mentioned it before.
Yeah,
Like
where
a
he
talk
was.
show or something.
Yeah, and the whole thing was fake, but it was obviously fake. And he like went on like the points when he went on talk shows and pretended to be high out of his mind. Like that was fun, but that wasn't the documentary. The documentary was just shit, and it wasn't a documentary. It was fake. Like that was dumb.
Right.
It was kind of like a publicity stunt, I guess, but
Yeah,
a little bit of a troll. He does a little trolling.
But even the publicity stunt of that, like, he just kind of looks like a jerk on live TV. Like, I don't see what. Oh, it's a character. Like, what? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're
He
not
is
in a
weird.
movie, are you?
He is a weirdo.
Yeah,
He's an
yeah,
actor.
definitely.
He's a really great actor.
He's weird, but he's good at
Sure,
his job.
he's very
though.
out
Holy hell.
there. Yeah, he's very good in this movie, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Just, you know, I
Shit.
What's crazy about this movie is, like, it's very, very popular. It's a lot of people have seen it.
Damn it.
But it also still kind of retains that, like, kind of indie-ish, genuine uniqueness, because not a lot of films have tried to copy this, right? Usually when something gets, like, really big,
True, yeah.
permeates the culture in this way, there are a lot of, like, copycats that try to do that same thing. But this kind of kept its own personality, right? And we're 8 years later, and you don't see a lot of, like, hipster future movies. You don't see, like, relationship with the OS phone movies, or at least done in this kind of serious or dramatic or purposeful way. And I think part of that is just, like, they've made something where the end result is something that you have to be so delicate with what you're working with, or else it's just going to be a fucking farce. Right? If somebody else tried to make this movie,
straight up,
it would just fucking suck, right? Like, conceptually, like, this would spell a fucking disaster for the overwhelming majority of people who could possibly try to tackle a subject like this or concept, you know?
I find it extra funny whenever because I rewatched some of the Jackass movies recently, ready for the new one. Whenever he shows up, it's like, but like you're in these movies. It's like such a strange link.
That's right.
He's a
it
fucking
makes me laugh every time.
or something.
Well, he's not, like, Spike Jonze is not a pretentious, like, art director kind of guy. I've never gotten that sense from him. He's in Jackass and shit like he's always. I've always liked him. I've always seen him around and
Damn
stuff.
it.
Yeah. And then he makes these great movies, like these really emotional movies. So, like, wow, I never thought. Yeah. And this movie's fucking awesome.
Everything about it, just nothing wasted.
He's got to make something else soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure maybe at some point, or maybe he'll be like, I've peaked. Can't do that anymore.
No, I don't.
How do you follow up her?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we need a movie like her now, especially in this day and age. Movies lacking any kind of challenging messages or themes.
Yeah.
You definitely need a Spike Jonze or a Charlie Kaufman to come in. I mean, his movie was great last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, there's not enough super talented people, but I guess, I mean, that's what helps them stand out. If everybody was doing a movie like this, then they wouldn't be as special.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he could do a Netflix thing at least. Spike Jonze.
Yeah. I heard a criticism one of my friends made when this movie came out. They said that they would have preferred someone other than Scarlett Johansson to play the voice so that there wasn't already, like, a popular face attached to it.
That was already the case. They changed it, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
It was Rebecca Hall, I think.
Yeah, they did.
I love Scarlett Johansson in this movie. I think she fits perfectly.
She does a great job.
Her voice is great.
And also, it probably helped the movie get made. You never know.
Sure. But just her voice, like, I was always like, she has a really cute voice.
Yeah, it's very empathetic.
It fits perfectly. Yeah, absolutely.
Distinct as well and unique.
Yeah. And like you said, the crackling in her voice, or like the imperfections. Yeah, it's definitely intentional, and it's part of the movie.
Yeah, and it's pure voice acting too.
Like on set, I think it was Rebecca Hall with Joaquin Phoenix. And it's even more impressive that she managed to fill in for Rebecca Hall, and none of us even notice it watching the movie.
Yeah, why not? There were some memes floating around where people would dub over the trailer for this movie and replace it with somebody like Bill Burr.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Like Gilbert Gottfried. Like,
yeah.
All right, that's the end of where the other editor got to. They sent me this much so I could do this today, because I asked to be able to go over this today. So theoretically, there's another half an hour left or something. The questions to go over, and I guess this is about an hour through the. So I can Oh, they say that they are rendering it now, so I'll be able to go the rest of this shortly. I gotta pee. I'm gonna get another drink, so BRB either way.